The planet called New Haven was beautiful. 2 suns hung in the sky, painting the red mountains with golden light every morning. 17,000 humans lived there in small towns and farms. They had schools and hospitals and parks where children played. It was humanity's pride, a place where families could build new lives among the stars. Captain Deho stepped off his ship and walked through what remained. His boots made soft sounds in the ash. Everything was burned. The homes were rubble. The streets were empty except for bodies. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but nothing prepared him for this. The alien ships had come 3 days ago. The Vrexil Empire sent their warships without warning. No message. No demands. They just started shooting from orbit. The bombs fell on houses and schools and hospitals. When their soldiers landed, they killed everyone they could find. Old people, children, everyone. They took their time doing it. Commander Minji walked beside Deho. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands were shaking. She had seen war before, but this was different. This was murder. How many lived? She asked. 43 people, Deho said. His voice was quiet. Out of 17,000. The Vrexil made them watch, made them beg for their lives. Minji stopped walking. She looked at a burned building that used to be a school. Small shoes were scattered near the door. She closed her eyes for a moment. For 200 years, humanity had followed the rules. When they first reached the stars and met other species, they were excited. They joined something called the Galactic Council. It was supposed to keep peace between all the different aliens. Humanity signed treaties. They were polite. They tried to be good neighbors. The other alien species thought humans were weak. They said humans were too new, too soft, too emotional. The Galactic Council treated humanity like children who needed to learn how the galaxy really worked. But humans kept trying. They believed in peace and law and doing the right thing. The Vrexil Empire had tested that belief. They picked the weakest target they could find and destroyed it completely. They wanted to see what would happen. Would humanity cry and beg the Council for help? Would they accept being victims? Send a message to Earth, Minji said. Her voice was cold now. Tell them mercy ends here. All around the dead colony, human soldiers were recording everything. Captain Jinho led a team that filmed every crime scene, every murdered family, every destroyed building. They would show these recordings to all of humanity. Everyone needed to see what happened when you followed the rules and expected others to do the same. In orbit above the planet, Admiral Sunho sat in his command chair. He was reading reports about the Vrexil attack. The alien fleet had already gone home. They were probably celebrating. They thought the Galactic Council would do nothing important. Maybe the Council would make speeches about how sad it was. Maybe they would tell the Vrexil that they were naughty. But nothing real would happen. The Council was afraid of the Vrexil. The Vrexil had a big military and controlled important trade routes. It was easier to let one human colony die than to risk making the Vrexil angry. The Council had made this calculation before with other species. The strong did what they wanted. The weak suffered. That was how the galaxy worked. But the Council forgot something important. They forgot to ask what humanity was really capable of. They forgot that humans had not always been peaceful. Before humans reached the stars, they had spent 10,000 years fighting each other. They knew war. They knew it very well. They had just hoped they would never need that knowledge again. Sunho opened a communication channel to Earth. This is Admiral Sunho. Request permission to begin Operation Reckoning. The reply came quickly. Permission granted. Show them what happens when they murder our children. Down on the planet, a woman named Hyerin sat in the ruins of her home. She held a small burned doll that belonged to her daughter. Her daughter was dead now. Her husband was dead. Everyone she loved was dead. She could not cry anymore. She had no tears left. Deho knelt beside her. He put his hand on her shoulder. I promise you something, he said. They will pay for every single life. Every single one. The news from New Haven spread through human space like fire. Every human colony, every space station, every ship heard what happened. People were angry in a way they had never been before. This was not just sadness. This was rage. Ships that were far away started coming home. Soldiers who had retired came back to service. The big factories that made cargo ships and passenger ships stopped. Now they would make warships. And in secret places that the Galactic Council did not know about, humanity prepared to show their true strength. For 200 years, humanity had been building and preparing, not because they wanted war, but because they knew that peace only works when everyone follows the rules. And they knew that someday someone might not follow the rules. That day had come. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. They thought humans were the peaceful ones, the diplomatic ones, the ones who talked instead of fighting. They were about to learn something that humans had known for a long time. Humans could be peaceful, but humans could also be the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. When someone hurt their families, the Vrexil had killed sheep, not knowing that the sheep were really wolves. They had made the biggest mistake possible. They had shown humanity that following the rules was pointless, that being good and peaceful meant nothing, that the only language the galaxy understood was violence, so humanity would speak in that language, and they would make sure the galaxy never forgot the conversation. All across human territory, military bases lit up with activity. Generals and admirals gathered in command centers. Young men and women lined up to volunteer for the military. Scientists who studied peaceful things started working on weapons. Teachers and doctors and farmers put on uniforms. Everyone understood what was coming. This would not be a small fight. This would not be a quick punishment. This was going to be total war. Humanity was going to teach the Vrexil Empire and the entire galaxy a lesson. The lesson was simple. You can push humans very far, but there is a line. And once you cross that line, mercy ends. On Earth, in the great capital city, the leaders of humanity met in a secure room. They made the decision that would change everything. They voted to leave the Galactic Council. They voted to reject the Council's authority. They voted for war. The message went out to every human in the galaxy. New Haven has fallen. 17,000 innocents are dead. The Council will not help us, so we will help ourselves. We will show the galaxy what humanity really is. We tried peace. We tried following the rules. But mercy ends here. Now we bring justice. The Vrexil Empire had no idea what was coming. They thought they had beaten humanity. They thought they had proven humans were weak. But they were wrong. They had not beaten humanity. They had awakened something that humanity had kept locked away for 2 centuries. They had reminded humans why their ancestors had conquered their entire planet, why human history was filled with blood and battle, why every human child learned about warriors and war. The Vrexil wanted to see if humanity would bleed. Now humanity would show them what happens when you draw blood from a species that spent millennia perfecting the art of revenge. The Galactic Council building floated in space between the stars. It was huge, shaped like a ring, where 63 different alien species met to talk about keeping peace. Ambassador Taeyong stood in the center of the great chamber. He was wearing his military uniform, not his fancy diplomatic clothes. Ash from New Haven was still on his shoulders. He put it there on purpose. "We need your help now," Taeyong said. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. The Vrexil Empire killed 17,000 civilians. They broke your laws. They ignored your treaties. You must do something. The council speaker was a crystal-like alien that glowed different colors. Right now it glowed with an annoyed orange color. "Ambassador, we understand you are upset. But we must think about the bigger picture. The Vrexil say that New Haven was built in territory they claimed first. That is a lie." Taeyong hit the podium with his fist. "We settled that planet 60 years ago. You gave us permission. We have all the documents." "Yes, well, those documents are being reviewed," another council member said smoothly. "These things take time. We cannot just rush into action. We must consider all sides." "All sides?" Taeyong could not believe what he was hearing. "They murdered children. They bombed hospitals. They killed old people who could not run away. What other side is there?" The speaker glowed brighter. "Ambassador, this emotional response is exactly why younger species need our guidance. The galaxy has rules that are older than your entire civilization. The Vrexil Empire is very important to galactic stability. Humanity must learn to accept certain realities." A cold silence filled the room. Commander Unji stood behind Taeyong. She was there as a military observer. She suddenly understood everything clearly. The council was not going to help. They were too afraid of the Vrexil. They would let New Haven's dead stay dead because it was easier than standing up to a strong empire. "I see," Taeyong said quietly. "So there will be no justice." "There will be negotiations," the speaker said. "We will mediate talks. Perhaps the Vrexil will pay some money as compensation. But these things take time. You must be patient and let us handle this properly." "No." "What did you say?" "I said no. Humanity is leaving this council immediately. We do not want your negotiations. We do not want your justice. We do not want anything from you anymore." Shocked sounds came from all over the chamber. No species had ever left the council before. It was unthinkable. The council was supposed to be the one thing that held the galaxy together. Ambassador, you cannot do this. If you leave, you will have no protection. No trade agreements, no allies. You will be alone. We are already alone, Taeyong said. We just did not realize it until now. You had one chance to prove that your rules mean something, that protecting innocent people matters. You failed. He picked up his papers. Remember this moment. Remember that you chose to do nothing, because what happens next is your fault. Taeyong walked out. Every other human in the room followed him. Behind them, the council dissolved into confused arguing. On the human warship called Defiant Honor, Admiral Sunho watched everything on a video screen. Colonel Kyungmi stood next to him, looking at maps that showed where all the human ships were positioned. It is done, Sunho said. We are on our own now. We were always on our own, Kyungmi replied. We just did not know it yet. Human ships were already moving. Every human vessel in alien space received orders to come home immediately. Trade agreements were canceled. Embassies were closed. In one day, humanity pulled back inside their own borders. Every human came home. The council thinks we are running away, Sunho said. Good. Let them think that. By the time they understand what we are really doing, it will be too late to stop us. On Earth, in a command center buried deep underground, Fleet Admiral Bora stood in front of all the highest-ranking military officers in humanity. Holographic displays showed ship positions and supply lines and maps of Rexel territory. New Haven was a test, Bora said. Her voice was flat and hard. The Vrexel wanted to see if we would fight back. They wanted to see if the Council would protect us. Now they know. The Council is useless and we are alone. She paused and looked at every face in the room, but they learned the wrong lesson. A star map appeared, highlighting all of Rexel's space in red. For 200 years, we have been good students, peaceful, diplomatic, nice. Her expression turned cold. But before we went to the stars, we spent 10,000 years becoming very good at war. We did not forget those skills. We just put them away, hoping we would never need them again. She pressed a button and the display changed to show secret military bases and hidden weapons. What we are about to do will shock everyone. The Council will say we are wrong. Other species will be afraid of us. But the Vrexel and anyone else who thinks humans are easy targets will learn a truth written in our blood across thousands of years. Everyone waited in complete silence. Mercy ends here. The officers began working immediately. Operation Reckoning had been planned for years, waiting for a moment like this. Humanity had hoped this day would never come. But they had prepared for it anyway. Now all those preparations would be used. Captain Junho commanded a ship called Soul's Vengeance. For 3 years, his crew had been mining asteroids. That was the official story. In reality, they had been watching the Vrexel fleet. They mapped where Vrexel ships went. They found supply depots and military bases. They studied everything. All stations ready, said Lieutenant Nari. She was Junho's second in command. We have weapons locked on all 3 supply depots. Junho looked at his tactical screen. The Vrexel system in front of them was important. It supplied food and ammunition and fuel to the Vrexel military. Destroying it would not win the war, but it would hurt them badly. Do they know we are here? He asked. No, sir. Their sensors are looking for big fleets. They completely missed our ship because we made it very hard to detect. This was part of humanity's secret. While pretending to be peaceful, human engineers had studied every alien technology they could find. They learned how alien sensors worked. Then they built ships that those sensors could not see properly. The Vrexel had no idea humans could do this. All ships, Junho said on the radio. Remember New Haven. Remember why we are here. Begin Operation Reckoning. Fire. Across 24 star systems, human ships appeared and attacked. But they did not use normal energy weapons. They used kinetic kill vehicles. These were just big pieces of metal moving incredibly fast, close to the speed of light. It was old technology. Most aliens thought it was too primitive to use. But primitive does not mean it does not work. A piece of metal moving that fast hits like a nuclear bomb. And no shield in the galaxy can stop it because modern sensors are not designed to look for such old weapons. The Vrexel supply depot never saw it coming. One moment it was working normally. The next moment multiple projectiles hit it and it exploded into vapor. Throughout Vrexel space the same thing happened. Supply depots exploded. Shipyards were destroyed. Military bases vanished in fire. and every time the human ships disappeared before the Vrexil could respond, they slipped away into dark matter nebulae that human explorers had secretly mapped. The Vrexil did not know about these hiding spots. Humans did. In the Vrexil capital city, alarms screamed as reports came in. War leader Gornak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red markers appeared all over his empire's territory. "How many?" he demanded. 37 installations destroyed, his officer reported. The officer's voice was shaking. "No survivors?" "No warning. They hit everywhere at the same time." "Find them! Send the fleet! Destroy them all!" But the human ships were already gone. They used tactics the Vrexil did not understand. They did not stay to fight. They just hit and ran. Like ghosts. Like shadows. Strike hard, then vanish. On Earth, Admiral Bora watched the results come in. Phase 1 complete. Vrexil supply capacity reduced by 40%. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was darker. It was about assassination. The Vrexil leaders thought they were safe in their palaces and mansions. They had armies protecting them. But humanity had spent a long time learning how to kill people quietly. Colonel Young-ho led the mission himself. His team landed on the Vrexil homeworld using stealth technology. The aliens had never developed good internal security. Why would they? No one had ever dared attack them on their own planet before. Target confirmed, Young-ho whispered into his radio. War leader Gornak heading to his quarters. Rules of engagement are clear, Admiral Bora's voice came back. Make it public. Make it impossible to ignore. Young-ho smiled coldly. Understood. The next morning, the Vrexil found Gornak's body in their capital's central square. There was a message written in huge letters across the plaza in Vrexil language. For New Haven, for 17,000 innocents. This is mercy compared to what you deserve. 9 other important Vrexil leaders died that night. Each assassination was more impossible than the last. The message was clear, nowhere was safe. No one was protected. If humans wanted you dead, you would die. The galaxy watched in shock. The council called emergency meetings demanding that humanity stop. Other species that had dismissed humans for centuries now watched in horror as humans tore into the mighty Vrexil Empire like wolves attacking sheep. Part 3. After the slaughter, humanity spoke. Mercy ends here. The Galactic Council met again in emergency session. The giant ring-shaped station was filled with arguing aliens. They were watching video feeds showing Vrexil territory burning. Human forces were destroying one of the galaxy's major powers, and everyone could see it happening. "This is barbarism," the council speaker shouted. The crystal alien was glowing angry red now. "Humanity must be sanctioned immediately. We must stop them." Ambassador Minho stood calmly in the center of the chamber. He had replaced Taeyong as humanity's representative, but he was not here to apologize. Barbarism? No, honored council. This is justice. You were asked to provide it. You refused. You are committing genocide. One alien accused. Wrong. Minho's voice was ice cold. We are targeting military assets and leaders. Vrexil civilians are safe. We have not touched their cities or their homes. That is something the Vrexil did not do for our people. But since you mentioned genocide, should we review what that word means? I have extensive footage from New Haven. Would you like to see it again? The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to see those horrible images again. The Vrexil will retaliate, another counselor said. This will become a galactic war. Everyone will suffer. Minho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The Vrexil are welcome to try. But first, they should understand something. He pressed a button and the display showed human fleet positions. The numbers made several aliens gasp. What you are seeing is 15% of humanity's military capacity. 15%. Do you understand what that means? Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The numbers did not make sense. Humanity had always reported small military forces, nothing compared to major powers like the Vrexil. You lied to the council, the speaker accused. No. We reported exactly what you required, Minho corrected. Active military vessels. You never asked about reserves. You never asked about shipyards. You never asked what we were building in our own space. His face became harder. For 2 centuries, we played by your rules while preparing for the day those rules failed us. That day came at New Haven. On the Vrexil homeworld, the new war leader Dreshna faced a nightmare. Her military was in chaos. Supply lines were cut. Bases were destroyed. Leaders were dead, and the human attacks kept coming with no end in sight. They are hitting our mining operations now, her advisor reported. They are destroying resource extraction across 17 systems. At this rate, our fleet will be grounded within weeks. We will have no fuel, no ammunition, nothing. Where are they coming from? Dreshna demanded. How are they moving through our space without being detected? We do not know, War Leader. Our sensors cannot track them. They appear, attack, and vanish. It is like fighting shadows that we cannot see or touch. The Vrexil did not know about dark matter currents. These were invisible rivers of exotic matter flowing through space. Most species had studied them briefly and dismissed them as useless, but humans had spent decades mapping them. Dark matter streams were perfect for hiding ships from conventional sensors. What seemed like useless science to others had become a weapon for humanity. Captain Sora commanded a stealth carrier called Invisible Fury. Her ship was hiding in a dark matter stream just outside Vrexil core territory. She carried 50 fighter craft. Each pilot was a volunteer who had lost family at New Haven. Next target is the orbital fabrication platform around Vrexil Prime, she told her squadron leaders. Intelligence says it produces 70% of their remaining warship components. That is a heavily defended target, Captain, Commander G1 said. They have many weapons protecting it. Yes, that is why we hit it during shift change when their patrol patterns rotate. We will have a 4-minute window. 4 minutes is not much time, Captain. Sora's face was like ice. It is more time than New Haven got. The attack went perfectly. 50 fighters burst from the dark matter stream. They overwhelmed the platform's defenses before anyone could respond. They planted antimatter charges at key structural points. Then they vanished back into the dark matter. 6 minutes after the first shot, the platform was debris floating in space. The Vrexil had lost their ability to replace destroyed ships. Target destroyed, Sora reported. All fighters returned safely. Moving to next objective. Across the galaxy, other alien species started to reconsider their relationship with humanity. The Korthan Federation had been rivals with humanity for years. Now they suddenly sent friendly messages. The Selkath Concordat had blocked human trade agreements many times. Now they reversed all those decisions. Everyone was afraid. If humanity could do this to the mighty Vrexil, what could they do to anyone else? But one species understood better than others. Ambassador Zixtor of the Thrul Collective met privately with Minho after the council session. The Thrul had experienced genocide themselves thousands of years ago. They knew this rage personally. Your species is teaching the galaxy a hard lesson, Zixtor said. His mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. Yes, Minho agreed simply. The council will eventually try to stop you. They cannot allow such disruption to their order. Then they will learn the same lesson the Vrexil are learning. Zixtor was quiet for a moment. Your people adapt quickly. 200 years ago, you barely had spaceships. Now you are destroying an empire. What changed? Minho thought about that. Nothing changed. We have always been capable of this. We just hoped we would never need to be this way again. Back on Earth, Admiral Bora was in her command center receiving reports from every battlefront. The campaign was going better than planned. Vrexil forces were retreating everywhere. Their confidence was completely shattered. But Bora felt no satisfaction. Only cold determination, ma'am, her aide said carefully. The Vrexil government is asking for negotiations. They want to discuss surrender terms. No, ma'am, I said no. We are not done yet. Not even close. Bora pulled up the plans for Phase 3. The first phases had broken the Vrexil military. Now came the harder part. Making sure they never threatened anyone again. Making sure they understood the consequences of their actions so deeply that they would never forget. Humanity spent centuries learning to control our violent nature, she said quietly. We built ethics, laws, civilization. We hoped the galaxy would share those values. She looked at her aide with eyes that had seen too much death. We were wrong. So now we remind the galaxy why we needed those controls in the first place. We show them what humans are capable of when the controls come off. The Vrexil Empire was collapsing. Their economy was in ruins. Their military was scattered and ineffective. Their leaders were either dead or hiding. But humanity did not stop. They wanted complete victory. Total surrender. Captain Deho was now serving as a military governor, overseeing occupied Vrexil territory. He walked through Vrexil cities, seeing the fear in alien eyes. They had thought themselves superior. Now they knew what it felt like to be conquered. But Deho made sure his soldiers followed strict rules. No looting. No revenge killings. No abuse of civilians. We are not here to become monsters, he told his troops. We are here to deliver justice. There is a difference. Never forget it. Lieutenant Hanna was working with Vrexel refugees. Her job was to provide food, shelter, and medical care. She worked alongside Vrexel civilians, helping them survive. Why do you help us? A Vrexel elder asked her one day. After what my people did to yours? Hanna was quiet for a moment. Because you did not do it. Your leaders did. Your military did. And they have paid the price. But you are just trying to survive. Just like the people at New Haven were trying to survive. Many of my people celebrated when your colony burned. I am ashamed to say I was one of them. I know. Hanna's voice was hard. And you are learning the consequences now. But hatred is a cycle. Someone has to break it. Not through mercy, we are past that. But through justice that is harsh but fair. In Vrexel space, human ships continued their relentless campaign. They destroyed every military target they could find. They seized control of jump points and trade routes. They established blockades around major planets. The message was clear. The Vrexel Empire was finished. 3 months after New Haven's destruction, war leader Dreshna stood in a bunker deep underground. She was watching her empire die. Human forces controlled everything important. Her fleet was scattered. Her economy was destroyed. And still, humanity showed no signs of stopping. What do they want? She asked her advisors. We have tried to surrender. They refuse to talk to us. They want unconditional surrender. Complete disarmament. War crimes tribunals. Occupation. They want to remake our entire civilization. How did this happen? We were strong. We were feared throughout the galaxy. We underestimated them. We thought they were weak because they were peaceful. We forgot that peaceful and weak are not the same thing. Dreshna realized the truth too late. Humanity had not been weak. They had been restrained. There was a difference. A big difference. And the Vrexel had mistaken that restraint for weakness. Now they were paying the price for that mistake. Across the galaxy, other species watched and learned. Border disputes that seemed ready to turn violent suddenly got resolved peacefully. Aggressive empires became cautious. Pirates and raiders became more. Part 4. After the slaughter, humanity spoke. Mercy ends here. 4 months had passed since New Haven burned. War leader Dreshna sat in her underground command bunker, watching everything fall apart. The screen showed human ships everywhere. They controlled every major jump point into Vrexel space. Her once mighty fleet was scattered, hiding in distant systems. The economy was dead. Food was running short in some cities. And still, humanity pressed forward with cold determination. They are demanding our complete surrender now, her senior advisor said. His scales had lost their color from stress. Unconditional. They want our entire military disarmed. They want war crimes trials for everyone involved in New Haven. They want to occupy our worlds. And if we refuse? Dreshna asked, though she already knew the answer. They will keep destroying us piece by piece until there is nothing left. Dreshna looked at the tactical map. So many red markers showing human fleet positions. So few green markers showing her own forces. How did we lose so badly? We had the stronger fleet, better weapons, more experience. We underestimated them completely. We thought being peaceful meant being weak. We were wrong. The surrender terms arrived the next day. They were harsh. Every Vrexel warship would be scrapped. Every weapon beyond what was needed for basic police work would be destroyed. The leaders who ordered the attack on New Haven would face trial. Reparations would be paid. And human observers would oversee Vrexel governance for 100 years. But there was one part that surprised everyone. The terms included reconstruction aid,
food shipments,
medical supplies, economic assistance. Humanity would help rebuild what they had destroyed. Once the Vrexel accepted responsibility for their crimes. They destroy us, then help us, Dreshna said in confusion. I do not understand. I think I do. Her advisor replied quietly. They are not trying to exterminate us. They are trying to change us. To remake our civilization into something that follows their rules. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Minho stood before the assembled species. This time he was not defending humanity's actions. He was explaining what came next. Today marks a change in how the galaxy works, Minho announced. His words were transmitted to every inhabited system. For too long, the strong have done whatever they wanted while the council watched. For too long, might made right and justice was ignored. No more. He gestured to the Vrexel representatives who stood in restraints. This empire murdered 17,000 civilians and expected no real consequences. They believed their strength made them untouchable. They were wrong. Humanity does not seek to rule the galaxy. We do not want an empire. But we will not tolerate another New Haven. We will not watch while atrocities happen and bureaucrats debate appropriate responses. We will not be victims. The council speaker tried to interrupt, but Minho's voice cut through the chamber. You had your chance to lead. You chose stability over justice. You chose convenience over courage. So humanity offers a new deal to the galaxy. Any species that commits genocide, that targets civilians, that wages wars of extermination, they will face us. Not the council, us. This is unacceptable, a counselor shouted. You cannot make yourselves the galaxy's police. You have no authority. Watch us, Minho replied simply. We are not asking for permission. We are telling you how things will be from now on. On the human flagship Righteous Fury, Admiral Sunho met with his senior officers. They were planning the occupation of Vrexel space. It was a massive undertaking. Captain Deho, who had been at New Haven, was appointed military governor. Some of the crew are uncomfortable with occupying Vrexel worlds, Deho reported. They say we are becoming what we fought against, conquerors. Sunho nodded slowly. He had expected this. That is a good concern. It means our people are thinking about right and wrong. We need to remember why we did this. Not for conquest, but for justice. The moment we forget that, we do become monsters. How do we prevent that? We establish clear rules. We treat Vrexel civilians with the respect their leaders denied to ours. We rebuild their economy. We help them create a government that serves the people instead of just the powerful. Sunho's face was grim. And we document everything. Every decision. Every action. Let history judge whether we were right or wrong. Across Vrexel territory, human occupation forces began their work. It was not easy. Many Vrexel resented the occupation. Some resisted. But humanity had learned from their own history. They knew how to occupy territory without creating endless resistance. The key was fairness. Human military police arrested war criminals, but they did it according to law. They held trials with evidence and witnesses. They allowed defense lawyers. Some accused Vrexel were even found not guilty when evidence was weak. This surprised many Vrexel who expected simple revenge. They are following their own rules. A Vrexel civilian named Torvak said to his neighbor, even for us. Even after what we did, is that not strange? His neighbor asked. They could simply execute everyone. Who would stop them? I think that is the point. They want to show us there is a difference between justice and revenge. Lieutenant Hana continued her work with refugees. She helped Vrexel civilians who had lost homes and jobs because of the war. She worked 16-hour days distributing food and medicine, helping people find shelter. You are kind to us, the Vrexel elder told her during one of their conversations. Why? Because kindness is not the same as mercy, Hana explained. Mercy means forgetting what happened. Kindness means treating you like a person while still holding your people accountable. Do you understand the difference? The elder thought about that. I think so. You will not let us forget our crimes, but you will not become criminals yourselves by treating us cruelly. Exactly. The war crimes trials began 6 months after New Haven. They were held publicly, broadcast across all channels. The prosecution presented evidence, videos of the attack, testimony from survivors, communications between Vrexel leaders ordering the massacre. The defense argued their case too. Some claimed they were following orders. Some said they did not know civilians would be targeted. The judges listened to everything. Then they made their decisions based on evidence and law. 147 Vrexel were found guilty of genocide and crimes against sentience. The sentences were harsh. Many faced execution. Others received life imprisonment. But the trials were fair. Everyone agreed on that. Even Vrexel observers admitted the humans followed proper legal procedure. On the day of the first executions, Admiral Bora gave a statement that was broadcast everywhere. She stood before the memorial to New Haven's dead as she spoke. These individuals ordered the deaths of 17,000 innocent people. They believed they would face no real consequences because they were strong and we were weak. They were wrong, she paused. Let this serve as a reminder to the galaxy. Justice has a price. Those who commit atrocities will pay it. We will make sure of that. The executions were carried out quickly and humanely. No torture. No spectacle. Just justice delivered with cold efficiency. And with each execution, a name from New Haven was read aloud. One name for each person who died. It took hours. The Vrexil people watched and felt shame. Many had celebrated when New Haven burned. Now they saw the faces of those victims, saw their names, realized they were real people with families and dreams. The guilt was crushing. Back on Earth, a memorial was built. It was a wall of black stone with 17,000 names carved into it. Each name represented a life lost. Beneath the names was a simple message. They died because the galaxy chose convenient peace over difficult justice. In their memory, humanity chose differently. May we never forget the cost of either choice. Commander Minji stood before the memorial on dedication day. Survivors from New Haven were there. So were the soldiers who had fought in the war. Families of those who died. Everyone who had been touched by the tragedy. Is it over? A survivor named Hiren asked quietly. She still carried her daughter's burned doll everywhere. The war is over, Minji replied. Justice has been served. But the work continues. We have to prove that what we did was right, not through words but through our actions. She looked at the names on the wall. Each one a person who had future stolen from them. We cannot bring them back. But we can make sure their deaths meant something. We can build a galaxy where such things cannot happen again. And if others try? Captain Deho asked. Minji's face hardened. Then they will learn what the Vrexil learned. That humanity has limits. That we will go to the ends of the galaxy for justice. That we remember everything. Throughout the galaxy, the lesson was being learned. Aggressive species became cautious. Pirates disappeared from trade routes. Border disputes were resolved through negotiation instead of force. The Council, humiliated but unable to oppose humanity's new position, began actually enforcing its own laws for the first time in centuries. The Vrexil Republic was being born from the ashes of the Vrexil Empire. Human advisors worked with moderate Vrexil leaders to create a new government, one based on representation and rights instead of military might. It was slow work. Many Vrexil resisted change. But slowly, progress was made. Captain Junho, who had commanded Seoul's vengeance during the war. Part 5. After the slaughter, humanity spoke. Mercy ends here. 20 years had passed since New Haven burned. The galaxy looked different now. The Vrexil Empire was gone, replaced by the Vrexil Republic. Human advisors still worked with Vrexil leaders, but the occupation was slowly ending. The Vrexil were learning to govern themselves according to rules that protected everyone, not just the strong. In a small apartment on the Vrexil homeworld, a young Vrexil student named Kalara sat at her desk. She was studying history, reading about the war. She had been just 5 years old when the humans came. She remembered the fear, the confusion, not understanding why everything changed. Now she was older and understood better. Her history book showed pictures from New Haven, bodies in the streets, burned schools, children who never got to grow up. She felt sick looking at them. My people did this, she whispered to herself. On her desk sat a small flower in a pot. It was a gift from Lieutenant Hana, who still worked in civil affairs after all these years. Hana was old now, her hair turning gray, but she still helped Vrexil civilians every day. She had given Kalara the flower when she was just a child, scared and alone after losing her father in the early days of the occupation. Kalara watered the flower carefully. It was a connection between two species learning to live together, learning to move past hatred. At the Galactic Council, things had changed too. Humanity now held equal authority with the Council Speaker. Ambassador Minho was older now, his hair completely white, but his voice still carried weight. The Council had learned to respect human opinions. They had no choice. Humanity had proven they would act when the Council would not. We have a situation developing in the Korthan system, a counselor reported. There are reports of civilian attacks, possible genocide. Send human observers immediately, Minho ordered, and prepare a resolution. If the reports are true, we act within 48 hours. The Korthan government will protest, the speaker said. Then they should not be killing civilians, Minho replied flatly. Those days are over. Everyone knows the rules now. The Korthan situation was resolved peacefully. As soon as human ships arrived, the attacks stopped. The Korthan government suddenly became very cooperative. They arrested those responsible. They paid compensation to victims. They did everything humanity demanded, because they knew what happened if they did not. The Vrexil Empire had been a warning, a demonstration. No species wanted to become the next example. On Earth, at the New Haven Memorial, an old woman stood before the wall of names. Her name was Hyarin. She had been one of the 43 survivors. Her daughter's name was on the wall, her husband's name, her parents' names. Everyone she loved had died that day, but she was still alive. She had lived for 20 years with the grief, watching humanity's response, watching justice be delivered. She had testified at the trials. She had watched the executions. She had seen the Vrexil Empire dismantled piece by piece. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked the memorial, as if the dead could answer. Was all that death worth it? Commander Minji, now an admiral, stood beside her. Minji came to the memorial every year on the anniversary. "I ask myself that question every day," she admitted. "We killed many people. We destroyed an empire. We changed the galaxy through violence. But no more New Havens," Hyarin said quietly. "No. No more New Havens. In 20 years there has not been another genocide. Not one. Because everyone knows we meant what we said. Mercy ends where genocide begins. Is that enough? Is preventing future atrocities worth what we did?" Minji was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. History will judge us. Maybe they will say we were heroes. Maybe they will say we were monsters who used grief as an excuse for conquest. But I know one thing. Your daughter and everyone else on this wall, they did not die for nothing. They died because the galaxy was broken, and we fixed it even if fixing it required breaking things first. In the Vrexil capital, there was a museum now. It was called the Museum of Remembrance. It showed the history of the war from both sides. It showed the New Haven massacre in brutal detail. It showed the human response. It showed the occupation and reconstruction. It did not try to make anyone look good. It just showed the truth. Vrexil school children visited the museum every year. They walked through rooms showing the crimes their ancestors committed. They saw videos of human children dying. They saw the trials and executions. They saw everything. "Why do we have to see this?" a young Vrexil child asked his teacher. "It makes me feel bad." "That is the point," the teacher replied. "You should feel bad, not because you did it, you were not even born then, but because you must remember it. You must remember what happens when the strong prey on the weak, when you think might makes right, when you forget that other beings have the same right to live as you do." The child looked at images of New Haven. The humans were scary. They destroyed everything. Yes, because we pushed them past their limits. We mistook their peace for weakness. We learned the hard way that humans are capable of great violence when necessary. But look at what came after. The teacher gestured to displays showing reconstruction, the occupation, the help humanity provided. They could have exterminated us. They were angry enough, strong enough, but they did not. They hurt us enough to make us change, then helped us rebuild. That is the lesson. Justice without mercy, but also without unnecessary cruelty. Captain Deho had retired from active military service. He now taught at a military academy on Earth. His students were young officers learning about strategy, tactics, and ethics. He always saved one lecture for the end, the lecture about New Haven and what came after. "We won that war easily," he told his class. "We were prepared, we were angry. We had better tactics and technology than anyone knew. The military victory was almost guaranteed, but that was the easy part." He paused. The hard part was what to do after. How to be conquerors without becoming monsters. How to deliver justice without losing our humanity. "Did we succeed, sir?" a young cadet asked. "I think so. The galaxy is more peaceful now. Rules are enforced. The weak are protected. But we paid a price for it. We revealed what humans are capable of. Before New Haven, other species thought we were soft. Now they fear us. Is that better? I do not know. What would you do differently, sir? Deho thought about that carefully. Nothing. We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. We followed the rules while others broke them. When that failed, we had to show strength. If I could change one thing, it would be to make the council act sooner so we never had to. But we cannot change the past. We can only learn from it. In human space, the fleets remained strong. Shipyards still built warships. Training continued. Reserves were maintained. Because humanity had learned a lesson too. Peace only works when you have the strength to enforce it. Weakness invites attack. So they would never be weak again. But there was another change. Human culture had shifted. The arts reflected it. Stories about war and revenge were popular. Music had become harder, angrier. Architecture was more defensive. The experience of New Haven had scarred humanity's collective psyche. We lost our innocence, Fleet Admiral Bora said in her retirement speech. She was old now, her career ending after decades of service. We went to the stars hoping to find friends. We found predators instead. We learned that the galaxy does not care about ideals. It respects strength. So we became strong. But we must never forget why we did it. Not for conquest, not for glory, but to protect our own. To make sure no more colonies burn. The speech was controversial. Some thought it was too aggressive. Others thought it was exactly right. Humanity was divided about its role in the galaxy, but everyone agreed on one thing. New Haven must never happen again. Lieutenant Hannah, now quite old, still worked with Vrexil civilians. She had spent 20 years helping them, building bridges between species. Her hair was white, her hands shook sometimes, but she kept working. Why do you stay? Kalara asked her one day. Kalara was grown now, a teacher herself. You could retire. Rest. You have done enough. Hannah smiled tiredly. Because this work matters. Because if someone like me, who has reason to hate your people, can show kindness, then maybe others can too. Maybe we can break the cycle of revenge and hatred. Do you hate us after what happened? I hate what was done. I hate the leaders who ordered it. But you were a child. You did nothing wrong. Hatred is a poison. It destroys the person who holds it more than the person it is directed at. So I choose to build instead of hate. Kalara hugged the old human woman. Thank you for everything. On the anniversary of New Haven's burning, both humans and Vrexil gathered at memorials. Humans to remember their dead. Vrexil to acknowledge their guilt. It had become a shared day of mourning and reflection. Admiral Minji gave the speech at Earth's memorial. She was retiring soon too. Her generation, the generation that had fought the war, was getting old. Soon, new leaders would take over. Leaders who only knew the war from history books. We stand here 20 years after tragedy, Minji said to the gathered crowd. 20 years after we learned that peace is fragile, that justice sometimes requires force, that mercy has limits.